INCRadio, DZEM 954, the voice of truth, the official radio station of the Church of Christ or Iglesianicristo.
And welcome to INCRadio, South Central States. Are you a herper? Y'all may be wondering, what is a herper? That's something we're going to talk about today. And today I do have a special guest here with me today. So go ahead and introduce yourself. What is your name?
My name is Everest Russell.
Everest, how old are you?
I am 12 years old.
And where do you live?
Fort Worth.
All right, so we have Everest, who is a herper, okay? But before we find out what a herper is, go ahead and join us in our chat. We did type in the question of the day there, and the question of the day is, would you consider getting a pet reptile? If so, what would it be? So Everest, tell us, what is herping?
Herping is basically just catching and observing reptiles and amphibians.
So why would you do that?
It's really cool to see them out in the wild, looking around, checking out the environment.
But what's cool about it?
All the animals.
So why do you like herping?
I get to go outside, get a workout. I also just get to see animals in their natural habitat doing their thing.
Okay. And do you get dirty?
Yeah, I have to shower after almost every single one.
Okay, so when you're herping, like what got you into it? Why do you like looking at reptiles and stuff like that?
I saw a couple of YouTubers online making videos about flipping rocks and stuff to find snakes, looking around creeks for turtles, and I just decided it would be fun to try it out.
And how old were you when you first started like trying to do this thing?
About 10.
Oh, really?
Ish.
Okay. And now, are you not scared that like it might be dangerous or poisonous or anything like that?
No, I have a decent knowledge of the animals in the area, so I'm not too worried about them yet.
Okay, so you said you got knowledge. Where are you getting this knowledge from?
I look online, look up with YouTubers and stuff, and make sure that before I go outside, I know everything before I go outside and look for turtles.
Okay, but turtles are not dangerous, right?
No, they're still snapping turtles.
And what's a snapping turtle?
It's a turtle with a long neck, a sharp beak for like chomping its prey down. It can grow pretty big. It weighs a few pounds, and they're much bigger than the ones I usually see.
And where can you normally find these snapping turtles?
You can find them in like big ponds, creeks, or to be found like along the bank, swimming around.
So how could you tell the difference between a regular turtle and a snapping turtle?
Snapping turtles have like bigger heads.
Oh.
Their heads are like way bigger, way sharper, and their shell also has quite a few more keels on it. The other animals we have here, the soft-shell turtle, is much flatter, unlike the snapping turtle. And the red-eared slider, which also lives here, is typically like much smaller, but still big.
Okay, so these snapping turtles, have you ever got bit by one?
No, I've been scratched up by one before.
Okay, but if, let's say, you put your hand to them and they bite you, would that like, is it strong enough to like do major damage?
If it's a small one, probably not too bad, but still quite like painful. A medium one would probably hurt a good amount, and a large one, don't even bother with it.
Why not?
Because they're way too big, they claw too much, and it's just much harder to hold them when they're really big.
Okay, so besides turtles, what else do you look for?
Snakes.
What kind of snakes?
Typically like earth snakes, but when I'm by creeks, I often look for water snakes, which are much bigger and a lot more defensive when you catch them.
Now, when you're looking for snakes, do you know which ones are dangerous, which ones are okay? Because for me, I think all snakes are bad.
I just think that snakes, they're just not all that bad, honestly. They're helpful to the environment because they kill pests. They help you out with pest control. They also actually have a really good thing for the environment. The smaller snakes eat bugs that could damage your crops.
Oh,
The medium snakes can eat mice that can potentially transmit disease. And the large snakes eat large invasive predators like deer that are trampling up your garden.
deer,
Oh,
like deer, like
no, probably closer to like rabbits.
because I'm like,
But still.
that's still. But no, they can't. They can't kill rabbits. That's messed up.
No, it's not. Rabbits actually are like pretty impactful on the ecosystem. They chew up your plants and like take away your carrots.
But people have rabbits as pets.
They breed really quickly, and they live a decently long time for a rodent, or whatever they are. So there's a lot they can do.
Okay, so we were asking some of the audience, like, would they consider getting a reptile? And if so, what would they get? And we did have Oliver who said he had an albino python. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, it's basically a morph of a python that has significantly lighter colors than normal.
Oh, okay, because that's where the albino comes from. What about, have you heard of the Philippine cobra?
I mean, I know about cobras. They're like these medium to large venomous snakes. Largest can grow up to 10 feet with the king cobra plus 10 feet, but the smallest ones only are about 3-ish feet.
Okay, so if your mom and dad lets you, would you have a reptile for a pet?
No.
Why not?
Red-eared sliders, I mean, they're not necessarily big, but they take a lot of care.
Okay.
Because they like grow to 10 inches for males, which is still pretty big, or 8-ish on the small side, but still. You have to get like an 80 or 100-gallon tank, clean the tank often, watch out to make sure your future kids or something don't attack it.
Okay, but snakes are not the only reptiles, right? There's other reptiles out there. Would you consider?
There's lizards, but honestly, it might get away.
So you would never have a reptile for a pet?
Probably not. I just enjoy them more in the wild.
Yeah. See, your mom says she thinks they're cool, but she likes to admire them from a distance. So I have to agree with her because, like, when I go to Hawaii, I see geckos and all those things, and I think they're pretty cool, but I would not go anywhere near them. Right? But you like going near them.
I probably in handfuls, mouthfuls, literally, and probably like a lot of cool pictures of geckos in my hand,
Mm-hmm.
stacked on top of each other like little pancakes.
See, Ren says he wants a chameleon. What do you think of a chameleon?
They're pretty cool, but also kind of slow. And they're invasive in Florida, I think.
Now, have you seen like a live chameleon?
No.
Never? Because I wonder, like, do they really, change colors to go with their environment? That would be pretty interesting.
They change colors. It's mostly just to match their mood. Like, if they're angry, they start going bright red to show that they're angry towards another chameleon. The other chameleon will typically do the same thing.
Mm-hmm. See, we have Jerry Hill. He says he's not interested in reptiles, but he would consider a hamster. So I don't like hamsters either, but I do agree with Jerry about the whole not wanting reptiles. So what is like the coolest thing you've ever found?
It's probably an earth snake that was eating a worm or a big snapping turtle I saw. I actually wrangled the snapper.
Why was that interesting?
Because I didn't catch a snapping turtle up to that point, and it was like November.
Okay. And then we have Kat here from New Jersey, I think. Kat, she says she loves turtles. What's like the most interesting turtle you found?
I mean, in terms of coolness and size, it's definitely a snapping turtle, but soft shells are cool and look, but I think one of the most underrated is the river cooter.
What is that?
They're just a bigger version of sliders. like the red-eared ones in Texas. They get a little bit bigger. They often tend to be like cooler and stuff, with males reaching around 12 to 13 inches.
Now, with turtles, do they come in different colors?
Yeah, they come in a lot of different colors.
Because the only ones I've seen are usually like the green ones, but what's like the most interesting color turtle?
Sliders, males, when they get old, they can become all black, but typically they're like dark greenish with a bunch of yellow marks on their face and stuff and shell. And whenever males get old, sometimes they have this really cool thing where their red stripe becomes more of like an olive greenish stripe. And the same goes for their shell too.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Okay, so before we continue, let's go to our thinking cap first. So our first thinking cap question. Should we say who won for the last month?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Okay, so last month's winner, that's December, it is Jane. So Jane will be getting her mug. So congratulations. And she only beat everybody out by 1 point. So, it is close. So participate in our chats all the time, and hopefully you can get the next prize. So our first thinking cap question is: the coral snake can be identified by which color pattern? A, red bands touching black bands. B, red bands touching yellow bands. C, red and black. Or D, pink and yellow. Okay, once again, the coral snake can be identified by which color pattern? A, red bands touching black bands. B, red bands touching yellow bands. C, red and black. And then D, pink and yellow. I do not know the answer for this one, so Everett's going to have to tell us later. Not right now. Don't say nothing right now. Let them try to figure it out. And while they're trying to guess that, what's the most colorful snake you've ever found in the wild? Or
the scarlet king snake. It is a bunch of vibrant black bands, red bands, and yellow bands. It looks really cool.
When you're saying black band, yellow band, what is that? Is that like the pattern on them?
Basically, it's like red bands with black surrounding, and then yellow with black surrounding, and then red all the way down the body till the tail.
So is it like stripes? Is that what it is?
Like actual bands. They circle around the body.
Oh, like that. Okay, that's what I was trying to figure out when you talk about.
Stripes would just be like the ribbon snake, which has a bunch of stripes on top.
Okay, that's what I was just wondering. Okay, back to our questions. Have you found anything that you wanted to take home?
Honestly, my closest one was a tiny red-eared slider who was basking. I approached him trying to catch him, but instead of going into the water, I guess he got spooked, panicked, and just went the other way.
Is it easy to catch them? Like if they try to run away from you, is it easy to like try to grab?
Not
snakes?
at all. Those red-eared sliders are pretty hard, but snakes, those are pretty easy because usually when you lift their board, they're just chilling and they don't really see you.
Now, what do you use to catch these things?
For sliders, I often just use my hands and stuff. And
so you don't have like a tool or anything? Because Oliver said when he was looking for stuff in the Philippines, he was using bamboo sticks.
Although for those common water snakes I see, like the really common ones, I just use a stick to hold them by the tail and make sure that their heads are dangling over the edge.
Okay. So why, let's say somebody might be thinking of herping. What are the benefits of it? Why is it a good thing to do?
You can get lots of exercise from walking around and running, looking for turtles and snakes. And whenever you're lifting those big, heavy rocks that you have to lift for those water snakes, usually by the creek, you get a lot of exercise by lifting those.
So that means you're saying you're buff since you've been lifting heavy rocks.
Not really. Although it does work though. I've seen plain bellies under some pretty big and heavy rocks.
Okay. Have you ever seen something where you saw a snake and you thought it was like, but then it was kind of dangerous and then you just ran away from it? Or have everything you've seen been just safe things?
Everything's mostly just been safe. Although snapping turtles are a good candidate though.
Are they fast?
They're much faster than you think they are.
But can you run away from it?
Definitely.
Okay.
But soft-shell turtles, if those were to chase you, you wouldn't have too much of a chance. Those things can run pretty fast.
Really? I always thought turtles were slow. You know, like when they
I
had
mean,
that fable.
the second I grab that turtle, it just like starts flapping its arms and legs and speeds off into the water. By the time 1 second's done, and it's already like 20 feet in the water.
Now, do you think you're a fast runner?
Kind of. Not really.
But can they outrun you?
I mean, whenever they're right next to the water and I can't go inside, there's not really much of a way to catch up to them.
But what if they're on land?
Oh, the sliders, they always like bask. So whenever they even think they're a threat, they just take their time slipping into the water because they know that they have really sensitive hearing, vision, and also are sensitive to vibrations. If they even have a sense that you're there, they'll see you and think you're a threat and dive.
Okay, when you were trying to catch these turtles, was there ever a time you fell in the water?
No,
Never.
not really. Although I had a close call recently, I was trying to catch the first turtle of the year, which was actually a male, and then I just like fell upside down with my hand barely keeping me out the water. So I put the male aside, got my grip right, and then I adjusted to get back up on the land. Keep in mind the slope was quite steep, and there was like 3 feet of water below me that I would have gotten soaked.
That is so cool. Okay, let's go to our second thinking cap question before we end. So our second thinking cap question is, what is the only U.S. state without snakes living in the wild? Okay, so is it E, Hawaii, F, Maine, G, Alaska, or H, New York? What is the only U.S. state without snakes living in the wild? E, Hawaii, F, Maine, G, Alaska, and H, New York. So we're going to ask for the answers later. We're going to give them time to try to put it in the chat what their answers could be. We'll ask you later. So where is the most interesting place you've gone? So don't say your backyard, okay? But where's the most interesting place you've gone where you found these critters?
It's basically just the same old park I always go to. It's like you find pretty interesting stuff there, like all the sliders and stuff. They're pretty common, but never get old.
But have you gone like out of town or out of state?
Lots of times.
What's the coolest place where you found a lot of stuff?
Probably like New York. There were these common water snakes, and it was so cool when they were under the water. Like they look practically orange under the water, whereas on land it looks like grayish.
Where in New York?
Buffalo.
Okay, because see, when you say New York, I'm thinking New York City. I'm like, what? So Buffalo, up in northern part of New York, right? What about, have you gone to, like, let's say Montana, Wyoming, or Colorado? Have you ever found critters there?
I went to Colorado once and found this like long-legged spider. It was pretty cool to see.
So I guess depending on where you go, there's different things you could find, right? So where would be the place to go that would have like the most snakes?
Probably like Texas or Florida.
Texas or Florida. Okay.
Multiple times they're listed. It's mostly just the South states that are like along the Gulf Coast.
Why?
It's warm down there. They get lots of rain in those kinds of areas, so there would be a lot of water for water snakes, and where there's water, you could also find turtles, which maybe another snake might eat.
Wait, so do snakes eat turtles?
I mean, sometimes. I mean, if the turtle's small enough and the snake's like big enough, they definitely can.
Okay, so your mom says you're also into spiders and scorpions. Where do you find scorpions at?
There's this one path that I take. It's like a big old hill or something. I flip rocks there and usually find scorpions.
But aren't scorpions dangerous? Aren't they poisonous?
Not really. Scorpions are venomous because they have to sting you in order to inject it. And now's a good time to tell the difference between venomous and poisonous. Venomous, like a wasp, has to be stung. I mean, you could ingest like venom and you'd be probably fine or something. But I mean, you could definitely be bitten by poison and you'd still be fine. But poison, as in like a mushroom or something, would probably be like you have to eat it or come into contact with it to like get sick from it.
Okay, so cobras Those are venomous snakes, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if a cobra bites you, can you die from that, or do they have to put so much venom in you for you to die?
King cobra venom is actually weaker than most other cobras, but they inject so much of it that it might as well be stronger.
Okay, so can you die if a cobra bites into you?
Yes, but if you get antivenom, you can greatly reduce your chances.
Okay, and where do you get antivenom?
You have to go to a hospital.
Okay, making sure, because I don't think I've ever seen a cobra, but if I ever come in contact with a cobra, I gotta know what to do.
There's a hognose snake that looks a lot like a cobra. It's got like this hood thing, but they're not as long and skinny as most cobras are.
And they don't bite you.
They can bite you, but they're also mildly venomous. But this venom is nothing compared to the danger snakes, so you won't die from it, not at all.
Okay, that is so funny. Okay, so we're gonna close up our thinking cap. So no more giving answers. So now I'm gonna ask you, Everest, what the answers are. So for the coral snake, it can be identified by which color pattern?
It is red and yellow.
Red and yellow, so B. So if you guess B, you got it correct. Okay, what about the next one? What is the only U.S. state without snakes living in the wild?
Alaska.
Are you sure?
Yep, it's way too cold.
Okay, but what's the other state that kind of doesn't really have snakes?
Hawaii. Although there are non-natives.
Yes.
Non-natives wouldn't survive in Alaska because it's too cold.
Yeah. I know in Hawaii, when I was there one time, the police was on a manhunt because somebody brought a snake to the island, and they're not supposed to bring snakes to
They should have called it a snake hunt.
Yeah, they should have, but they didn't. Okay, so those are the answers. So we got B and G, and so if you got it correct, congratulations. That means now you got 2 points starting off in January. And I was reading the chat because I guess Matt is from Alaska, so he was saying that, yeah, it's too cold to have it. And so some people jumped on his bandwagon and gave the answer of Alaska. So that's pretty cool. Matt's also asking you, do you have turtles, snakes, and scorpions at your house?
I do have snakes, though.
Not in your house.
No.
Just in the backyard.
Turtles, I probably wouldn't have one unless they climbed over the fence like a ninja turtle would.
Oh, so there's people saying hi to you. Like there's Paula Cecilia. She's from the Mediterranean. She's saying hello. And she says, going herping in Buffalo sounds fun.
And if you were looking carefully at what I was saying during the buffalo part, I said northern water snakes in Buffalo, which is in New York. So I kind of gave away the answer if you were looking.
And then Maria, she thinks any kind of snake is scary. So I have to agree with her. I think snakes are scary because I don't know the difference if it's safe or if it's dangerous. So for me, I just do not let.
There are these really cute and derpy little snakes. One of my favorites is the earth snake. It's tiny, the eyes are so cute and little, and it's just so cute to see him crawling around.
Oh, there's one. Okay, so have you heard of a snake called cuyog? It's from the Philippines because when you see one and herd it, 2 will come out. Have you heard of snakes like that? And then a dozen, and then a lot, and you'll be afraid or walk away or run. That would be scary.
It's got to give birth, though, for that to happen.
Are you sure? See, now I'm going to have to do research on that one because that one does sound kind of scary.
Ooh.
All right, so what suggestion or what advice would you give somebody who doesn't like reptiles or doesn't like any of that kind of stuff? What would be interesting for them to maybe start looking at these creatures in the wild?
Look up field guides and stuff. Like there's this one that's like it's pretty big and has like a guide of like every single reptile and amphibian in America. Sliders, snakes, cooters, snappers, you name it.
Yeah. So if you're ever in Florida, I think Robert's in Tampa. He says that if he's ever in the wild, he wants to take you with him. So if you're ever in Florida, look for Robert. Your dad knows him.
I know about some snakes in Florida. My grandparents have texted me multiple times about this snake identification.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's this king snake thing outside. It's like in an S shape. It's rearing up with its mouth open, but it's definitely a scarlet king snake. The head is really small. and it's also got red and black, so it's a pretty dead giveaway.
That's so cool. All right, so before we end, do you want to give any shout outs to anybody?
I would like to give shout outs to my parents for taking me out to the places. I mean, I'd also like to give a shout out to all those YouTubers who taught me about all this stuff. And I'll also give a shout out to not much of a person, but all of the animals for being okay.
For being okay
with it.
Now, you said your parents just take you. So, like, one day you just want to go out and say, hey, I want to find snakes, and they'll drive you wherever?
Nah, I usually look for a warm day that's basically like on a weekend or something.
Mm-hmm. And they'll just take you for that?
Yeah, if I ask nicely.
You got cool parents. My parents would have probably said, no, we're not doing that. Just stay home and look in your backyard. But that's pretty cool. All right. So if you want to get into herping, Everest is here in Fort Worth. Hit him up. He can give you all these suggestions and ideas. And I knew he was into this stuff because anytime we have things going on, you always see him on YouTube watching spiders and snakes and all that, which I have to check away.
You should ask him about when he got bitten by a tarantula.
Ooh, what happened?
Basically felt the venom go into me. I decided to apply some ice, and thankfully the venom went away basically.
Well, where was the tarantula?
Under a rock. Tried to get him out using like a little brush thing. I tried to free handle him, I think, but then he just decided to get all spooked and decided to sink his fangs in.
See, so you got to be careful because it could be dangerous.
I've been bitten by snakes before. It's mostly just water snakes, but I have been bitten by other snakes, like racers.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I would have freaked out if I got bit.
And believe it or not, I've actually been bitten by a turtle before. It was a super aggressive male slider who really had a bad day. He decided to take a chomp.
See, if I got bit by a turtle, I don't think I'd think that much of it. But by a tarantula or a snake, I would freak out. I would probably like run to the hospital.
I mean, to be fair, they do have a pretty sharp beak, and I definitely see why they're really sharp. They cut through plants, and that on your hand does not feel good at all.
Okay, so we have run out of time, but I hope you found this topic interesting. I had no idea what herping was until today. And so thank you, Everest, for sharing your knowledge with us. And maybe when you come up with other hobbies and stuff, you can come back and share it with everybody else. So we want to thank everyone for tuning in today. We will be back next week. What our topic will be, we don't know. If you have any ideas, throw it in the chat so that we know what we want to talk about. And before we go, we always want to give our final shout outs to our INCRadio station manager, Brother Wale Taray, our CFO coordinator and SEPC president, Brother Angelo Eraño Manalo, and of course, our executive minister, Brother Eduardo V. Manalo. So thank you all, and thank you all for joining, and we'll see you next time.
I hope you enjoyed this as much as we enjoyed making it.
That's what YouTubers say, huh?
I'll see y'all next time.
This is INCRadio, DZEM 954, the voice of truth, the official radio station of the Church of Christ or Iglesia ni Cristo.